Monday the 9th of September. Hey, listener, thank you so much for joining us. It's a Totally Football Show today with Tim Spiers. All right, Tim.
Hi, James.
Lovely to see you. Daniel Storey's up on that big screen.
Hi there, James.
Good. Lovely to see you too, Daniel. And joining us, James Horncastle.
Hello, Jimbo.
You're a little bit bewildered, James. You thought you were coming in for, the Euro show.
I did. Considering all of Julien Laurent's kind of lobbying for that in order to get Julien Laurent paid.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened. He'll be offended by the snub, I think.
Well, he's busy, I think, on a Monday morning. Doing what? I cannot possibly say. But,
Podcasting, I imagine.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's busy most mornings, of course. Excellent. How was your international break, Daniel Storey?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I went to Chesterfield against Grimsby, which was feisty and bad-tempered and everything I wanted. And then I watched England and other games. So, yeah, pretty good.
Brilliant. When you say feisty, was it not a record-equaling or record-breaking match in terms of disciplinary or ill discipline?
Yeah, the referee kind of lost control of it. 4 different members of coaching staff were booked, which I'd never seen before, in 4 separate incidents, which was great. This kind of vision of, or image of the referee having to sort of run from one side of the pitch to the other to book someone, then run all the way back, and then run all the way back to book someone else, then run all the way back, was pretty good. There was also a red card and loads of bookings in the game. It was very bad-tempered, which is sort of what you want from a League Two game.
Well, that's what you wanted anyway. How far into the 92 are you now, Daniel?
14 games and 10 pieces, I think.
Wow, prodigious stuff. What about you, Mr. Tim Spiers? You watched a little bit of the San Marino.
San Marino, another game.
San Marino.
For the first time ever, I don't remember ever watching a full San Marino game before.
You watched the full game?
Yeah.
All right. Woo.
Yeah, there was the possibility that they were going to finally win. So tuned in, great game, full of quality and fans and everything you expect.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a good luck charm,
But possibly so. We'll be speaking to a man who was actually there on a small hill outside Bologna a little bit later on. Other big news, apart from San Marino winning their first game in 34 years, first competitive match, that is England, that 2-0 win over Republic of Ireland. Italy conceded fastest goal in the long history of the Nations League, away to France, but then came back to win 3-1. Horncastle's all over that. Ronaldo scored in back-to-back matches for Portugal against Croatia and Scotland. Scotland, in their games, conceding back-to-back last-minute winners. Very unfortunate. Germany and Netherlands each scored 5 goals in their matches ahead of their clash with each other, which is coming up on Tuesday, which should be red hot. Anything else caught your eye this weekend?
Jesse Marsh's Canada.
There you go.
Beating Jesse Marsh's USA.
Yeah.
They're kind of establishing themselves as the force, I think, ahead of USA and Mexico after, 30, 40 years of the opposite being true.
Wow. And they're going to be playing Mexico on Tuesday night. Yes, we can look, as they're no doubt saying. Tim?
But did Jesse Marsh sing the Canadian national anthem?
Yeah, he
did,
did, and he's playing all the hits. He's turning up to 11. He's saying I feel more Canadian than American now, that sort of stuff. So he's very much buying into it.
Wow. Did he arrive to the game on horseback as a Mountie, or sort of due south style for people of a certain generation?
Right. No idea what you're talking about, but it sounds good.
Yeah. It was a TV show. In the 90s.
Due south.
Yeah, the guy had a husky. I think
great.
called Deaconbecker, I think
All
it
right.
was. Yeah. It's a deep cut of 90s TV there.
Go along on this because we're short on content.
That's all I can remember. I can't imagine a show about a Mountie being made today.
Really?
It used to be on all the time. I remember that.
Deep
It was
South.
sort of like BBC
What's
Two.
Due South.
Due South.
Yeah.
BBC Two, 6 o'clock, all the time. I just remember him wearing the red sort of clobber. But that's it. Would always turn off after the
I wonder what
credits.
he's doing now.
I don't know. But your warm memories of Due South and the Redcoat Sporting Mountie have really given the show the buzz that it needed at the start. I'm going to move things up a notch still further by suggesting that we get on to Dublin And Republic of Ireland 0, England 2. England 2-0 winners Saturday in Dublin. A game which saw first appearance for interim England manager Lee Carsley, and quite possibly for the non-celebration against a former team, goal celebration, in an international fixture. That was when former Ireland player Declan Rice put England ahead early on, and Jack Grealish, as we just heard, who's a former Ireland youth player, not been mentioned much this, but he celebrated, of course, with gusto. So this is Nations League B, and it was against the Republic of Ireland, so maybe we shouldn't get too excited about it. But Daniel, what were your thoughts anyway?
I think people are fairly desperate to read good things into Lee Carsley's England, which is a positive thing.
I'd rather the Mail. Not the Telegraph from the Mail.
We might come on to that, I'm sure. Okay, so sane people, I think, are quite desperate to read good things into Lee Carsley's England, and that's a positive spin. I'd rather we were doing that than looking for negatives, which is what happened over the last 2 or 3 years. I do think people have slightly overdone that with this game. I thought England were really good in the first 25 minutes, and the goals they scored, certainly the second goal they scored, showed movement that, perhaps we didn't see an awful lot in the Euros in the summer. It was just an absolute regulation away qualifying win, which is what England have always done. You know, you look back to the friendly against Scotland in September 2023 when they won 3-1 there. It was basically exactly the same game. England in that game were 2-0 up at half time, eventually won 3-1 rather than 2-0, but basically the same thing. I do think they played more forward passes as their kind of first strategy rather than trying to sort of slow passing from the back, and that was clearly deliberate as a kind of antidote to what had happened in the Euros. And it was nice to see some of those fringe players who I think felt a bit put out in the summer, you know, Anthony Gordon being probably the main one, stepping up, and Jack Grealish, who obviously wasn't even in the Euro squad and played at this as this sort of number 10. I don't think that'll happen when Phil Foden and Cole Palmer and Jude Bellingham are back, but good on him for taking that chance. But it was just what England always do. Carsley's got very fortunate that they are in League B for these Nations League, because it means they avoid the kind of stumbling block that England have always had, which is beating elite opposition. So he gets to ease himself into the job, and that may well get him at full time.
Grealish and Gordon, the goal scorers, hailed as the heroes of this performance, along with Declan Rice. Gordon has apparently solved England's summer left wing problem, Tim. What does that mean for the likes of Cole Palmer and Bellingham and Foden and their involvement in the team?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I don't see Grealish as the sort of 10 going forward, so there'll be an obvious gap there. And the midfield was much more dynamic. It was much more of a sort of a double pivot with Mainu and Rice given license to go forward. So you can imagine Bellingham maybe fitting better in Lee Carsley's midfield too than Gareth Southgate's. But it was classic new manager bounce, this game. You know, we always see it at clubs. The guy comes in and easily corrects the basic sort of mistakes that the previous guy was making because he'd been there too long and he was sort of too stubborn to do the things that we all sort of were asking him to do. You know, because they've got their preferred way of playing or their favourite players or whatever. That's just what happens. So the new manager comes in and says, "Yeah, Anthony Gordon, why on earth is he not playing, left wing?" And that allows him to sort of push beyond the last man, and that sort of lessens the issues with Harry Kane coming deep. And then Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course you're going to play him in his best position. Why would you not? So it was these sort of simple things that Southgate wasn't doing, but also you can't get carried away because Ireland. Someone of an Irish persuasion messaged me during the game and said, "This is men against boys," basically. And it was. And you say Gordon had a great game, and he did, but he was constantly had Seamus Coleman to himself. Matt Doherty was playing right winger for Ireland, but wasn't really tracking back, and he's a right back, so I assume that was under instruction. So there was just these massive gaps for England to exploit, which they did so really well because they've got loads of great players. But I thought Ireland was set up quite naively, and it was sort of easy pickings for England. And then they took their foot off the gas second half, and it was all very regulation, but albeit enjoyable.
Grealish's goal was brilliant in terms of one touch, collective endeavour, really precise finish. That was great, and I don't know. I mean, like, on the eve of the Euros, the decision to, like, leave Maguire out, leave Grealish out in particular was kind of seen as, like, you know, Grealish, he's just a good lad to have around. And, you know, it was just nice to see him in the setup again.
Wasn't it?
You know, sort
enjoying
of
himself.
Well, exactly. Sort of, and I think as much as Tim talks about the new manager bounce, I do think the atmosphere at the Aviva Stadium played a part as well, because regardless of new broom sweeping out the old, fresh look in some respects to this English team, the atmosphere there, you know, sort of English national anthem booed, and then new players coming, but then Rice and Grealish really kind of stepped up and kind of showed. I mean, they weren't there to show the crowd because, as Rice said, you know, he did it for his grandparents in some respects. But I think their performance levels they really rose to that occasion. So there are other factors, I think, beyond Carr's ball. Making its instant impact.
Honestly, can we not come up with something different?
Carl's ball.
It's always ball. That's it. It's so boring. Every single new manager who comes in, that's it. It's just put ball on the end of the name.
Cars Lismore.
Yeah, that's good.
Carsley.
Carsley. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Nice. England are going to be facing Finland Tuesday at Wembley. I'm not sure if that's going to provide you with any more of a test for the new look set up. Finland, admittedly themselves last Saturday, lost 3-0 to Greece. Head of that match, England will be celebrating the life of Sven-Göran Eriksson. Appropriately enough, it was actually a home fixture against Finland, with which Sven debuted as England manager, first competitive match anyway. That was back in 2001. The lineup that day, do you want to know? England's lineup?
Was it at Anfield, by the way? Just to.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Why?
No, that's just the picture in my mind, because you think Wembley, don't you?
Well, your mind does not play tricks on you, Tim Spiers. David Seaman was between the posts. You had Neville, Campbell, Ferdinand and Powell in the back line.
Powell?
One of Sven's wild cards. Beckham, Gerrard, Scholes, McManaman, and Cole and Owen up front. What a team.
Andy Cole.
Yeah. Okay. Andrew Cole. All right. Anything else you want to say about England, or shall we just crack on?
Well, I think the flip side to this being a Nations League group that England should win at an absolute canter. I think Ireland are the highest ranked team at 54, or the highest ranked opponent at 54, and England just walked past them basically, albeit not really engaged by Ireland. Is that I think we will see, with the withdrawals, we'll see another change again to the starting lineup on Tuesday. I'd be surprised if maybe Morgan Gibbs-White might start. You might get, changes in defence. Just having Walker pulling out and having Stones only on the bench after not playing much football, and those three players we discussed, has basically given Carsley a mandate with the quality of opponents to just say, yeah, go and pick kind of under 21 plus team here. Go out and try and do something different. So that is exciting in itself. I'm glad that we haven't opened up in a group with, Netherlands and Germany, for example, in that would have promoted some conservatism of selection and tactics, which is exactly what England are trying to avoid now in this sort of, in inverted commas, new ball game era, cosplay era.
Excellent.
And just to say, I know we're all bored of talking about this, but I really liked the fact that he just didn't sing the national anthem. Whether he should or shouldn't, I just like the fact that he's stuck with his principles, right?
I mean,
he must have been under a lot of pressure, and I'm sure someone's had a word with him and whatever, but he just, don't want it.
I like the fact on Tuesday we're paying tribute to a manager who represented another country and presumably didn't sing the national anthem when he was in charge of England. In Sven, no?
Oh, there you go, yeah. Nice. No, I don't know if Sven did. No, Sven didn't, and neither did Capello, but it wasn't a thing then. I don't know why. I would say, and I don't know how much we want to give air to this this whole topic, I think if I was managing Italy, I would sing their national anthem, because you get into the spirit of it. But it's probably just because England's national anthem is so bad. It's not even a national anthem. It's a song about one man, and let's hope everything goes well for him. There's no mention of the rest of the country. I'm not the first person to point this out, but it's just, yeah. Anyway,
It's not on your anthems playlist.
it's certainly not. It's certainly not.
Brazil, Italy, Soviet
I mean, they're
Union.
great. The old
Yeah.
Soviet Union, which obviously now is slightly awkward.
Yeah.
File that with Morrissey. Lee Carsley, you know what he should have sung? Irish Blood, English Heart. The Morrissey number. There we go. Moving on. Next up, more international stuff and events in France. Listen, it's the 9th of September for us here. On this day in 1991, there was a World Cup qualifier which saw Norway beating England 2-1. Magnificent.
I'd say once a month I do some menial task, which when I've completed it, only in my head go through that commentary. So sort of like if you're ripping up carpet, it's like, yeah, let's say carpet right.
Your boys
try to think of other carpet stores.
Right.
Your boys took a hell of a
Well,
beating.
I mean, carpet beating is a thing, so that's a particularly apt use of that.
Yeah, that's why I chose it.
What bit of commentary do you most often use in your life, James Horncastle? To you next, Tim.
I mean, it's mainly song lyrics rather
Is
than
it?
commentary.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Tim?
Yeah, it's mainly like
Do you not?
it's mainly song beats. I would say.
Eh?
Yeah, like just sort of like the background like soundtrack. To
But do you not celebrate the little and big triumphs and the daily conquests in your life, as Daniel does, by giving them a little bit of historic commentary, just to capture the moment?
No, I don't think so.
Tim, you could do like Dennis Bergkamp, but with Tim Spiers. That would work beautifully, I think.
How would that work?
Tim Spiers. Dennis Bergkamp, Dennis Bergkamp.
Daniel,
Or
at what
Rolene
moment
and
do you
Darlene.
envisage him saying this? Because it does sound...
I'll leave it to his own imagination.
All right.
Nice
No,
that
it
you
has
thought
to be.
about
It has to be. It has to be like more menial, the better. So even if it's just getting on a bus,
Right.
something like that.
Okay. My small triumph now is going to be moving on to some of the weekend's big upsets. In Paris, France played Italy, scored the fastest goal, as we mentioned, in the Nation League's long history, taking the lead after just 13 seconds. But Italy coming back to win 3-1. Remarkable. James Horncastle, how nice to have you here to tell us about how the most wildly unpredictable team in football managed to pull this one off.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be a repeat of what we'd seen in the Euros when they went behind after 13 seconds with that Barcola goal.
That was 24. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, this time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the one in the opening game of the Euros was 24 seconds when Italy played Albania and Federico Di Marco threw it into his own penalty box, creating a clear goal-scoring chance for Bayrami. And for 10 minutes, it looked like Italy were going to get absolutely ripped apart because France's tactic was, Giovanni Di Lorenzo is playing. Remember when Nico Williams made him look really bad at the Euros? Let's just put Mbappe and Barcola on him. And they destroyed him. But luckily, the ship did not take on any more water and Italy started to play. And they played really well. Thoroughly deserved the win. And certainly was a performance that was more in keeping with what we all think and know about how Spalletti wants his teams to play. I thought the coverage in the Italian media the day after was quite interesting because it was like, he's got rid of all of these newfangled modern ideas and has just gone back to basics. I don't think there was anything basic about Italy's performance. You again had Calafiori going from left centre-back into midfield, Bastoni coming across to cover for him, Samuele Ricci, the kind of number 6, dropping in, playing. You had, instead of Federico Chiesa on the right-hand side, you had Andrea Cambiaso, who's been very, very good for Juventus over the last year, but particularly over the last few weeks. The two strikers dovetailed well together, particularly in the second half when Raspadori came on to play with Retegui. So it's a reminder that Italy aren't as bad as some people think they are. And
as they sometimes play.
Spalletti had said before the France game that in 30 years of coaching, he can't remember a team of his playing with the lack of fight that Italy had shown against Switzerland. And yeah, this was completely different, with the caveat that in the first 10 minutes they could have been 3-0 down.
Well, as you mentioned, that opening goal after 13 seconds came when Gigi Donnarumma was still velcroing up his gloves.
Yeah, which, like, on commentary on Rai in Italy, they were like, the referee, come on, he has to wait for Donnarumma here. The referee doesn't have to wait for anybody. I mean, you see Donnarumma hugging a member of the goalkeeping staff behind his goal when the game is kicking off. He then comes back on. He's still trying to wrap his Velcro around his glove, and we're 1-0 down.
Incredible,
it's unbelievable
against a team that only narrowly missed out on becoming world champions not too long ago. And as you say, it did look like it was going to be another rough evening. But they hit the post. Fratesi, I think it was. No, it hits the post.
Crossbar, yeah.
Crossbar. And then you get the equaliser, which was just outrageously good.
Yeah. I mean, Tonali came back into the squad at the first time he was available after serving his betting ban. Everyone's been really nice about him, saying, like, we've, welcomed him back with open arms. He's a really big player for us. Although, he hadn't had many caps even before he got banned for betting. So he came in, and it's a lovely back heel that lifts the ball over the defence. And Di Marco's got this in him, as like Barella has, just, outrageous finishes. So pure left foot on the volley in the top corner, unstoppable. But there's something like just really brave about how Italy played in phases, particularly the guy, the new kid on the block, Samuele Ricci, in front of the defence, and then the two wing backs, because they played with the back three. The wing backs were just switching it to each other, and it pulled France all over the place. It's a very simple thing. Switch the ball over, move France across, and whilst they're moving across, get midfield runners into the box, find them, goal, boom.
Tonali had been the big absentee of Italy's summer. Was it his return, do you think, that gave them this new fire?
Well, I mean, he is in some respects, I suppose, the symbol of this, redemptive spirit that Italy played with on Friday night, in that Italy needed to redeem themselves after, a very poor title defence at the Euros, and he needed to redeem himself after being, out of football for 10 months.
Basically, Paolo Rossi style.
Paolo Rossi style. So, at the time in the Euros, I didn't think Italy missed him, because I think Italy's midfield at the Euros was perfectly fine, at least on paper. Didn't perform that way. But there are players like Nicola Barella, for example, who I think is Italy's best outfield player. He wasn't playing against France on Friday night. But I think there is something maybe quite tantalising about Tonali playing with Barella and whoever is in the middle of them two. I don't think it's transformative in any way, but it's still quite. I mean, again, just seeing Calafiori play as he did last year with Bologna and at the start of the Euros, you do look at him and think, wow, I mean, what a kind of brave and special talent he is in terms of his interpretation of playing as a centre-back, number 6, number 8, full-back all at the same time. And you just want to see him play more for Arsenal, which is a bit of a shame because he's already back with Arsenal after suffering an injury in that game.
Yeah, he'll miss out on Italy's game against Israel, which is Monday evening tonight as we record. Of course, we should mention that France, for all their World Cup finalist status, are actually a bit bobbins at the moment. The Barcola goal was only the second from open play that they'd scored in the last, or that a French player had scored in the last 8 games. 8 games. Yeah. And they were rubbish in this.
Well, not in the first 10 minutes.
No.
And I thought Elise played well. He had a couple of chances and again just skipped away from Italy players on a few occasions. It was a strong France team. The
lineup looked amazing, yeah.
Yeah. So,
the front, you got Mbappe, you had Griezmann, Barcola, on the other side, Elise, as you say.
Yeah, Theo Hernandez. Mike Maignan made a great save from Fratesi as well. Yeah, it was a really strong France team. And so, I don't know. Deschamps ultimately did get that France team to a semi-final, scoring, only 1 goal from open play, which came in that semi-final. He's been in that job a long time. Maybe it needs freshening up. Maybe they need their Lee Carsley.
Perhaps. final whistle, he was...
Loic Carsley or something.
What's that?
Loic Carsley.
Yeah, maybe. It was my line, actually. Don't know if I should do it now. It's just final whistle. He was looking as tight-lipped as Lee Carsley during a national anthem. So you do wonder whether maybe the cloche is ticking.
Okay.
Is it a cloche? No,
the cloche is
the shoe, isn't it?
Yeah. No, cloche is what you put over a turkey, you know?
Right, it's going well here this morning, isn't it? Anyway, you do wonder if the clock is ticking. Hey, Italy winning in Paris. Great week for the Italian peninsula in general, because San Marino also came up on Thursday with that historic first win. Osman Wazim Butt says it would be nice if the pod gave a mention to San Marino. Andrew Shiech, I think that's right, says big mention has to go to San Marino. Justification for the whole point of the Nations League, them winning at last. Andrew also asked which team is now on the longest winless streak, in the UEFA Federation. Wow, that's a big question. Let's try and tackle that and hear all about the night of history at Serravalle as San Marino, population 33,000, ranked last in the world by FIFA, beat Liechtenstein 1-0 in the Nations League fourth tier. Not a game that appeared to actually have commentary on it, but that was the PA anyway, recording the dramatic moment when San Marino took the lead. Teenager Nico Sensoli scoring the only goal of the game after a defensive error. And San Marino hung on against Liechtenstein to record their first victory ever in a competitive match. They had won once previously in a friendly, and that was also against Liechtenstein. A man who was actually there was Lee Wingate of the Sweeper podcast, and he joins us now. Lee, you were there. How many San Marino games has this been for you?
Too many, James, is the answer. Me and my co-host on the Sweeper, Paul Watson, we've sort of adopted them as our national team now. So over the past year and a half, we've seen them play against St. Kitts and Nevis, the Seychelles, Kazakhstan and Slovakia. But we sort of earmarked this game against Liechtenstein as a potential win. I think we thought this was our last throw of the dice. And the great thing about the Nations League, obviously, is it pits countries against others of a similar ability. So we decided to go for it for this Liechtenstein game. And obviously, San Marino were on the longest winless run in international football history of 140 games. But fortunately, they did manage to get over the line.
What a moment. What a moment. The crowd of about 500? About 10% of which was the Sweeper party, from what I could make out, went absolutely crazy.
Yeah, they really did. There were sort of a group of school children from the local soccer school who were all lining the pitch. They sort of bring them in for the games to bulk up the crowd at their home games. And they were lining the pitch at the final whistle. You also had the substitutes sort of streaming on, players dancing, falling to the ground, which was really emotional. And then you also had the San Marino Ultras group, the Brigata Mai Una Gioia, the Never Any Joy Brigade, who have been watching them for the last couple of decades and just seeing them lose game after game. And I don't think they really knew what to do with themselves either. And I suppose to put into perspective how long it's been since San Marino have won a game, the goal scorer, Nico Sensoli, wasn't even alive the last time that San Marino won a game against Liechtenstein in 2004.
Sensoli, is he now an even bigger name in San Marino football than Davide Gualtieri, author of that goal against England, of course, in '93?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say he probably is. He's only a youngster, as I say, and this is a team that have got plenty of amateur players. They basically play either in the San Marino domestic league or they play in the lower leagues of Italian football. I think there's even one player in the squad, and James Horncastle might be able to confirm this, but he plays in the 5th division of Italian football, the Eccellenza, I think, for a team in Tuscany. So these are all really amateur players, and it's just such an incredible moment because they really have had plenty of people reminding them, including us, of how long it's been since they've won a game, and now they've finally done it.
Yeah, Sensoli, doesn't he play for the San Marino Academy? Or it sounds like one of those Aspire Academy Qatar, just without the funding.
Right. So they have the under-22 team in the San Marino League, which I imagine is a complex affair. But there is something happening in San Marino, or is there? That's now the 6th goal that they've scored in their last 8 games. They've got a reasonably professional manager in as well, in Roberto Cevoli. Lee, what's happening? Is something happening?
Yeah, well, essentially, you're right. They did score 3 goals in competitive games, like 3 consecutive games for the first time last year. That was Finland, Denmark, and Kazakhstan. And at the time, we really did think that some momentum was building. But then their coach, Constantini, at the time, he left, and he was a big factor for them. And then also, they had 2 goalkeepers quit in the space of 48 hours, Benedentini and Simoncini. And I think, obviously, the job of picking the ball out of the back of the net for San Marino is one of the most unenviable in world football. So you could sort of understand that. But then this year, they really have struggled. You know, they lost heavily to Slovakia and Cyprus in June. And I think we really thought that if they were ever going to get that win, it was probably going to come at the tail end of last year under Constantini. But they really have shocked and surprised us.
Cevoli, he played under Carlo Ancelotti at Reggiana.
Right.
Yeah, briefly. And then had this kind of long sort of career coaching in 2nd, 3rd, 4th division in Italy, coached Vicenza a little bit, Renati. The current Juventus number 1, Michele Di Gregorio, who took over from Szczesny in the summer, he played under Cevoli as well. So, but he's had all these health issues, and so he was like, "That's why I don't work in club football anymore. I'm purely focused on national team because I just have more time to myself."
Well, he's currently top of his Nations League group. Extraordinary. They're going to be facing Gibraltar in October as their next competitive fixture. Lee, I'm not sure. I mean, now my work here is done, etc. Are they going to remain your team, or what's your mission going to be now?
That's a good question. It's something we considered directly after the game. As it happens, the team they beat, Liechtenstein, are now on the longest ongoing winless run in international football, 41 games, and they actually played against Gibraltar at the weekend. They scored a 90-something minute stoppage time winner, and then that got ruled out. So they were just denied the ability to, or the opportunity to end that run very soon. But I think we might now adopt Liechtenstein as our team until they manage to end their winless run.
All right. Why don't you go for Anguilla? Well, actually, you might have just missed the boat on them, because this is the remarkable thing, because last Thursday, San Marino, the team ranked last, 210th in the world, finally got their win. And then the team ranked 209th also finally got a victory they've been waiting for since 2010. So 14 years in their case. This is Anguilla, who beat the Turks and Caicos Islands 2-0 in the CONCACAF Nations League. Extraordinary. Lee, were you all over that as well?
I think we had most of our attention on the San Marino game, so this did slip under the radar a little bit. But as you say, it's a big win for them, this Caribbean island that haven't won for 14 years themselves. And they won 2-0, but I think this might have had something to do with the fact that their opponents, the Turks and Caicos Islands, had a 14-year-old in goal. So
this is brilliant.
Their goalkeeper is Samuel Harvey. He's just shy of his 15th birthday, and he made a major blunder for the opening goal. So Anguilla played a free kick into the box, and he just spilled it, and it went straight over the line, basically. But we did Google to see if he was the youngest senior international footballer of all time. And it turns out he's not even the youngest for the Turks and Caicos, who also played an even younger 14-year-old back in 2005.
Wow. But did he play in goal as well?
I'm not able to say that. I'm not sure.
Wow, remarkable. So, Lee, that's magnificent. Anything else that we should keep an eye on in the rest of this international break or going forward from your wonderful sweeper kind of international football radar?
Well, I think that one game that took place last week was particularly interesting. That was Guyana versus Suriname, also in the CONCACAF Nations League. But one of the things we love at the sweeper are the geographical quirks of football. So whether that's clubs playing in the leagues of other countries or countries playing internationally in other continents. And we had an example of this because you've got 2 South American nations which play under the North and Central American umbrella. And that's for a couple of reasons. That's on a geographical level, just because the Caribbean is much easier to get to. The infrastructure connecting those countries with Brazil is pretty poor. But also on a footballing level, they are way below all of the CONMEBOL countries in the rankings. So it just makes sense for them to play in the Caribbean. And in this game against Suriname, which Suriname won 3-1, the second half was delayed because a helicopter carrying Guyana's president, Irfan Ali, came in to land So you had the players waiting around to take a kickoff, but this helicopter just sort of hovering in the air. It was hovering perilously over one of the linesmen's heads and then pitched down next to the pitch, and the president got out. And it was quite funny because then for the rest of the second half, if you were watching this game on TV, there were no fans in the camera shot, but all you could see on the other side of the pitch was the presidential helicopter.
This is brilliant. This is the sort of thing that Infantino should really do. I mean, like, he's been upstaged here. Like, this is brilliant egomania from a president.
Marvellous. Are you going to be talking about this in your Sweeper podcast, Lee? And when's the next one out?
Yeah, we will be. We'll be talking about that. I think the next one is Wednesday, the 18th of October. And we also recorded a special bonus pod from San Marino directly after the game. So if anyone's interested to find out some of the more weird and wonderful stories from world football, then do check us out.
Okay, I've seen the picture of you recording that, and the square, the piazza looks quite sedate there. The town didn't kind of dissolve into kind of complete mayhem following that victory on the last Thursday.
No, the only sort of mayhem was at the stadium, really, where I think people sensed that it was such an historic occasion that they went to the merch stand and everybody was trying to get hold of a match program because they knew like sort of what this meant. But beyond that, in the sort of the rest of the country, you couldn't really tell that this had happened. I mean, the bars tend to close around midnight anyway, and I don't think they factored in a San Marino win. So there was no extension of the opening hours. So there wasn't really many places to celebrate. And then up in the old city the next day at the top of the hill, there was basically no sign that such an historic event had happened. There was no one wearing San Marino kits, no TV replays of the goal, no nothing. So the scenes at the stadium were in quite stark contrast to the rest of the country.
I hear. It's probably still sinking in, of course. Magnificent. Lee, look forward to hearing more about all those tales and other incredible things in the Sweeper podcast. For now, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Lee Wingate of The Sweeper. Daniel.
I just thought a really nice thing that this San Marino victory did. So San Marino beat Liechtenstein in 2024. In 2017, Liechtenstein beat Qatar. In 2019, Qatar beat Saudi Arabia. And in 2022 at the World Cup, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina. So you can go from last in the rankings to the world champions just in 4 results, which is quite nice.
That's very nice, isn't it? Is that a new Kevin Bacon game you've just invented?
Well, it's a sort of offshoot of, there is a website that has gone through football history and worked out the kind of unofficial world champions, which is a sort of winner stays on basis. So
I thought that's where you were heading. I thought San Marino were going to be the unofficial world champions.
No, sadly not. They aren't. The unofficial world champions are the Côte d'Ivoire.
Oh yeah? How come?
After they beat Uruguay in March 2024, who I presume had beaten Argentina before that.
All right, very good. Tim, did you want to say anything at this point, or shall I just move on?
I was just looking up the league that Tropical Coriano play in.
I'm sorry, who?
Ideas? Well, I was really impressed by the San Marino centre-half, Dante Rossi.
Okay.
Who was born in Buenos Aires, 37 years old, got 75 caps. He was just heading everything clear for like half an hour. Anyway, he plays for Tropical Coriano.
Oh, yeah?
Is that a drink?
Apparently it's an Italian football club.
Well, a San Marino football club, is it?
Tropical coriander.
I'll have one too. Very good. We'll be back with more exciting international talk after this. More Nations League for you. There were 2 wins for Portugal over the last couple of days. They beat Croatia 2-1 last Thursday. And then, Tim, you saw their 2-1 victory over Scotland on Sunday night, a game which saw Scotland taking the lead, somewhat against the run of play, would you say?
They had a bit of attacking intent in the opening minutes.
So they had one shot in the first half and they scored with it. Scott McTominay, of course.
Yeah.
Portugal had 16, which is the most the Tartan Army have faced in an opening 45 minutes for 12 years.
Yeah, if you look at the scoreline of this game and when the goals were scored, you could predict exactly how the game was played out. You know, Scotland score a fairly agricultural early opener and then just sit back and fight for their lives and, face 27 shots, I think it was, in total, and Portugal eventually get a last-minute or a late winner through super sub Ronaldo. In fact, it was a very Adam Lafondra style sort of impact and winner. It was just a bit of a tap-in from across for his 901st international goal. It was interesting. It was a good game. Angus Gunn was sort of the story for Scotland because he had an incredible game with some logic-defying saves, but then let Bruno Fernandes's equaliser through his fingers, as he had done for Poland's penalty to win deep in stoppage time at Hampden. So he had a pretty mixed international break.
So that was the second game in a row that Scotland had conceded a goal which cost them any points in the match. It was 2-2 against Poland on Thursday going into the 96th minute, and then Grant Hanley with that disastrous challenge on Lewandowski, I think it was, and the penalty awarded and converted. So yeah, Ronaldo meanwhile also scored in the previous match for Portugal against Croatia. Quite the scenes for a man who was so bad in front of goal that he cried about it during the Euros. Now taking it to 901.
It's his first goal against Scottish opposition in any competition.
Amazing.
That's why he keeps playing.
Yeah, that's it. Just to break those records. Yeah.
Croatia, by the way, bounced back from their defeat to Portugal by beating Poland.
Luka Modric still playing.
Yeah, did you see his free kick?
I didn't. I was in the press conference where everyone thought he retired after Italy-Croatia in Leipzig. And so when I looked online at the lineups for this game, I was like, well, he's still here.
Yeah. Well, Danny, you just Googled his free kick, haven't you?
No, I was checking it. I thought it was, and I was correct. It's his birthday today.
It is his birthday today. He's 39, yes, as you just said. And it's a lovely free kick with which he scored on Sunday night. Elsewhere, holders Spain drew their first Nations League match 0-0 with Serbia. They then spanked Switzerland 4-1, despite the fact they played for 70 minutes with just 10 men after Robin Lenormand was sent off after 20 minutes. Fabian Ruiz got a brace. Other Nations League stuff. Netherlands beat Bosnia-Herzegovina 5-2. Netherlands' next opponents are Germany, who beat Hungary 5-0. With Jamal Musiala putting on a bit of a show. He scored once, set up 3 more. And Germany and Netherlands face off on Tuesday. That should be quite a match. Daniel, you've already mentioned Canada's victory over the USA in a game that we previewed in our last show. Should mention Brazil, we were also talking about, got a victory against Ecuador last Friday. They're now up to 4th. Looks like they might make it to the next World Cup. That was last Friday. They're going to be playing Tuesday against Paraguay. Daniel, what else is on your international radar as we begin to wrap up today's show? Anything else we should be looking forward to?
Well, just to say, I watched Sweden play their game against Estonia on half-watched on Sunday, late afternoon. And they are... It seems to be the case with most of those Scandinavian nations at the moment. They are kind of stacked up front. They've got... It's a joy to watch Isak and Gyökeres play together, and Dejan Kulusevski and Anthony Elanga. It's the same with Norway, who I watched draw. I think they drew with Kazakhstan, and they've got obviously Haaland and Ødegaard, and these are all packed with attacking talent, and yet somehow don't seem to make it work, and are, have got very few elite level defenders, which is, for those of us who grew up in the 90s, is kind of the opposite of what we expected from Scandinavian football. When the Premier League started, it was kind of your dependables were Swedish or Norwegian fullbacks like Gunnar Haller and Roland Nielsen, and now it's all sexy attacking talent with not much behind it.
It's a lovely development, isn't it?
Yeah,
Lovely stuff.
I'm all for it.
What's Sweden's next game then, Daniel?
So I think they've played their 2 games now. They beat Azerbaijan away on Thursday, and it beat Estonia 3-0. But just fun to keep an eye on them. They're a good team to watch.
Brilliant. And San Marino's next game, Tim?
Moldova away in a friendly.
That's in a friendly.
Yeah.
And then they've got Gibraltar in...
and Liechtenstein next month. Yes, so they're top of the group because Gibraltar and Liechtenstein drew. So, they could be in level C before long with the likes of Sweden.
Is Sweden in level C?
Yeah, I believe so.
You'd love to see it.
Yeah. Sweden in level C. Wow. On that bombshell, come to the end of today's Totally Football Show. Thank you so much for coming in misguidedly today, James.
When's the Europod start?
Yeah. We didn't even get to do a moment of the week or anything. Did you have one lined up?
I mean, it was that Di Marco goal,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, lovely to see you. We will be returning to Euro action next Tuesday, or possibly Monday, actually, because it's a Champions League week, I read. Thank you for being here today. Many thanks to Daniel, also to Tim, Liam, and Charlie in the booth, and, of course, Lee earlier on the line from the Sweeper podcast. Listener, thank you for being with us. We return on Thursday. Do join us then. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.